Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, Brock Purdy. I'll get to that stat in a second. But first, Micah Parsons, star Cowboy. Let's hear what he said. Some of you may have heard this already. A lot of you may have heard it already. Middlekoff sent it to me last night from the SF Niners Instagram page. So we're going to give Brad credit here for the aggregation. Thank you for finding that. Here's Micah Parsons on his brand new podcast.
And I just don't think that we should sleep on Brock Purdy no more. Yes, he was a 7th-round pick. Yes, he came in late in the season and won 6 straight games, took him to the NFC Championship before his injury. But Purdy, you will not be slept on no more, brother. I think people are coming for you the same way they come for Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes. Yes, you are surrounded by a great team, but you are playing your butt off, and you got one hell of a story, brother. If we were to rank Purdy right now, I would put Purdy around. I think Purdy's a top 15 quarterback. There's things that we still want to see from Purdy, not when Purdy's winning, but when Purdy's down. You know, I think the adversity aspect of the football game is huge. Learning how to play from behind, learning situational football. It's not something I'm saying he can't do. It's just something that we just haven't seen yet.
Micah Parsons did his homework. I'm going to update for you the stat that gets us to Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, and Brock Purdy. Now Brock Purdy has started 9 games, 34 dropbacks against the Steelers, and you add that to the 8 starts from last year, and Mike is right. Brock, and this was a Warren Sharp offseason stat, but now I updated it. So now it's 282 dropbacks, 25 passes in the second half when trailing. He just said it. What did Micah say? We got to see him play from behind. 25 passes in the second half when trailing. That's not a lot. In the second half when trailing, Brock is 64%, no touchdowns, 2 picks. In the fourth quarter when trailing, Warren Sharp, offseason stat, 5 of 12, no touchdowns, 1 interception, 42%. Who cares? 5 of 12. That's no sample size. But Mike is right. We still haven't seen that. And yet, Micah Parsons says he's a top 15 quarterback. Last year, of 47 quarterbacks, only Lamar Jackson and Jalen Hurts threw a smaller percentage of their passes when trailing in the second half. Brock didn't have to do it a lot. Well, guess what? Neither did the team that went to the Super Bowl. Is it repeatable? Yeah, it is repeatable because the Eagles just did it last year over a 17-game season. And the Niners just blew out the Steelers, weren't even close to having a second half or a fourth quarter deficit. So I think Mike is right. Like, we haven't seen that part of his game. He's going to have to do it at some point. There's no doubt about it. He's going to have to do it more. And ultimately, if he's the starting quarterback for 10 years, then he's going to have to do it a ton. But he's on this team right now, just like Jalen Hurts was on the Philadelphia Eagles in 2022. And on that team, you didn't have to play from behind in the second half. And on this team, you don't have to play from behind a lot in the second half. I don't think we spent enough time in the offseason talking about what Brock Purdy would be better at this year, his second year in the NFL. And we've still got to let it play out a little bit. But Micah Parsons played against him in a game last year in which Brock did not light him up. In fact, somebody used this game the other day when we were talking, I think it was Friday morning, as evidence that Brock's not that special, the Cowboy-Niner playoff game. Somebody made a comment about, well, you know, Brock only threw for 214 yards in that game. No touchdowns. Well, Micah Parsons, I'm going to take his word that he was impressed. He played in the game in which they held Brock to 214. And he didn't come away saying that guy's a scrub, chump, replacement level quarterback. He came away. Apparently he played, you know, he had all day to watch because his team didn't play till Sunday night. So we watched the morning games especially. And he was impressed. So is he crazy? Is he a top 15 quarterback? It's not crazy. Let's go through it real quick and do a little counting. Now, anytime we do this, I think the way that anybody should do this is you make it hard to be a top 15 quarterback. In other words, if there's anything close to a tie, I'm going to give it, for the purpose of this exercise, to the non-Brock guy. If you're like, I don't know, that guy might be better, let's give it to that guy. And then let's see what Brock's number is. So you can't be accused of like, well, yeah, you made him top 15 because you said he was better than Matthew Stafford. Well, that's BS. Okay, so we're not going to do that. We're going to give anything that I think is close to the other guy, and then let's see, is Micah Parsons right? All right, here we go. And I'm just going to count up players that in this exercise I say are better than Brock Purdy. Tua, better. Kirk, better. Stafford, better. Mac Jones, not better. Derek Carr, better. Goff, I'm going to say not better. Jordan Love, not better. CJ Stroud, not better. Trevor Lawrence, better. 5. Josh Allen, better. 6. Kenny Pickett, not better. Justin Herbert, better. 7. Patrick Mahomes, better. 8. Anthony Richardson, not better. Not right now, at least. Justin Fields, not better. Sam Howell, not better. Jimmy Garoppolo, not better. Staying at 8. Ryan Tannehill, not better. Russell Wilson, let's give him Russell, 9. Baker, not better. Hurts, better, 10. Lamar Jackson, better, 11. Deshaun Watson, let's say better, 12. Bryce Young, not better. Dak Prescott, better, 13. Zach Wilson, not better. Dobbs, no. Ritter, no. Geno, no. Daniel Jones, no. Burrow, better, 14. Aaron Rodgers, hurt, but better, 15. So there's 15 guys, while naming guys that I think some people would disagree with. He's better than Carr, not Goff. Goff is close, though. I like Jared. I root for Jared Goff. Somebody said to me the other day, we were talking about it, that Purdy's best case is Goff. I think we've seen it multiple times. Purdy's athleticism is superior to Goff's, and Goff just has a ceiling on him. Maybe Brock does, but we don't know that yet. We do know that Jared does. Now, these rankings change, right? We named a lot of really young quarterbacks. Maybe one of those guys hits. They're more talented, whatever. But my point is, we just went to 15. I guess you could argue I should have said Goff, not Derek, whatever. Let's say Goff also. Now we're at 16. So Parsons is right. And it's really not even that close. Is Goff going to make McVay look bad? I don't know. We'll see. So it's not even that close. So Parsons nailed it. And I don't know if Micah did the research. Some of these guys have like production teams that put together some stats for him, but there was no stats there. That was just Micah Parsons saying, hey, Micah Parsons here, football stud. That guy's a top 15 quarterback. And then he said they're going to start coming for you, and then he started naming star quarterbacks. So Purdy's teammates respect him and we respect him. That's all that matters. I would change that to say Purdy's teammates respect him and his opponents respect him. Micah Parsons respects him. So, Purdy is great value. Purdy is a great value. Young Russell Wilson. Well, you want a championship right away. That's what Russ did. And then you go on an MVP track. And I don't know if he is on an MVP track. Purdy right now, better than Russ. Yeah, again, that's why we do the exercise that way. Bro, you said if it's close. Okay, so I should have gone with Goff. Fine, go with Goff. 16. I disagree. Now we could go back through, filter that list and say, not actually better, not actually better. And to me, that exercise says, yeah, top 15 quarterback. His comfort at the line of scrimmage is incredible. His feel, and I was saying this to John the other day, it's better. His feel is consistently better. Garoppolo sometimes had great feel. He didn't always have great feel. And I keep waiting. We saw it again week 1 for that blind side spin out. We keep waiting for that not to work. It worked again. Somebody is just going to not go, someone's going to kind of angle that right side pass rush or off that left edge. It's just going to stay wide and hope that he spins right into them. At some point, that's going to happen. But Scott says, everyone hates on Purdy, saying the team around him stacked. What exactly does he need to get some respect? He's winning and putting up numbers already. Much like life, you can't worry about what other people are saying to get you the respect. The respect doesn't affect his contract. The respect doesn't affect wins and losses. I think like anybody else, you do the work until people can't talk shit anymore. I would say it takes a long time. It doesn't happen in a day. It doesn't happen with one game. It doesn't happen in a week. It doesn't happen in 2 weeks. But I think with young quarterbacks who can elevate really quickly, their teams win very early. and then it puts them into another stratosphere, right? And that's like what happened with Russ. Now, part of it was you watched him. God, this Russ is incredible, but Russ wasn't the one carrying them initially, and then he grew into the guy that was one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, a tier 1 quarterback. So Brock is ahead of schedule. He's on the perfect pace. He's on the perfect track. He's going at the right pace. It has gone as well as anybody could ask for it to go, even with the injury and they didn't win a Super Bowl and all that. He's in great shape. So none of this other stuff matters. I think when we talk about it, it's not about, is Brock getting the respect? Like Micah Parsons' comments don't interest me because Brock's getting the respect. I think they're interesting because we are still working off a small sample size, and you're trying to figure out, like, what is this really what it is? Because most times this isn't what it is. Most times, even if it's this good for 9 games, and I guess it actually has never been this good for 9 games. We had the stat the other day about undefeated and at least 2 touchdowns passes in every game. It's never happened. But we've all seen it. 8 games is not, sometimes it's just not enough to tell us, are you going to be here for 5 years, for 10 years, franchise QB? It takes time. So at this point, you rely on, God, what does Micah think? What does Kittle think? What does Kyle Shanahan think? What do the 49ers actions tell us? And then games go by and you watch and you watch and you watch and you go, I think he just made that play. I think Brock just made that play. Like, one thing I think is really that I was thinking about last night, laying in bed awake at 2 a.m. because I went to bed at 7:45, and inevitably then you can't, you're just not going to sleep through the night. So before I started counting back from 100, trying to picture a football jersey number with every number I counted, I was thinking about this. Robert Griffin III the other day said that Kyle likes quarterbacks that he can control. And I think we've talked about this a lot to varying degrees. I remember early in training camp, I said that I thought Sam Darnold was playing the game that would get him points over Trey Lance in terms of like, hey, I'm not going to do anything dumb because I'm not going to take any chances. I'm just going to check it down. Now, as time went on, Darnold started actually pushing the ball and taking chances. But at the time, and that was kind of what I was saying, was Kyle wants you to just do what he tells you to do. One thing I'm aware of and I'm watching for this year is if Brock again goes through a season where he doesn't throw a lot of interceptions, then I think we'd have to say that he's actually not the guy that Kyle just controls. And the reason is Shanahan has said multiple times that what he wants out of a quarterback in practice is for them to play the same way they're going to play games. He's not a guy that coaches, at least he hasn't said this, let's take some chances in practice, go ahead and push the envelope in practice, but in games, we're going to have to reel it in. Kyle is you play like you practice guy. That's what he has said repeatedly about quarterbacks. Anytime somebody said, well, Kyle, are you working on things here? Is Brock maybe trying to push the envelope on a throw just to test it out, but that's not really what he would do in a game? When he's been given the opportunity to say, yes, that's what's happening, he has not said that. He has said, basically, you play like you practice, so you better practice like you're going to play. And so if Brock goes through the season after a camp with a bunch of picks, if he goes through a season and doesn't throw picks, then I think we have to say, well, Brock doesn't actually practice the way Kyle Shanahan wants us to practice. We'd have to look back and go, now, partly it's a function of playing against one of the best defenses in the league, but maybe that's what Brock was doing. Maybe Brock was practicing the way he thought was best for him, not exactly the way Shanahan believes you should practice. I'm going to take some throws to test. I'm going to take some throws to see. I'm going to put a ball out there. We'll see what Hufanga does. I'm going to put a ball out there. We'll see what Mooney Ward does. I'm going to test my arm out, and I'm going to get myself ready for the season here because I'm not going to play a lot in the preseason. And what better defense to not play safe against than my own defense in practice when none of this matters? So I don't know that that's who he is, But that is one little box I've just got off to the side that I think we should watch this year. If he plays that way, and those are the results, then I think it will turn out that he's not just a quarterback who only does what Kyle tells you to do. Now, doing what Kyle tells you to do, by and large, is just going to result in you hitting open receivers. Ayuk somehow gets wide open. Debo somehow gets wide open. These guys that the defense should never forget about get wide open. But as we know, the reason you look for a quarterback who can work outside of your offense is because sometimes the coach, things happen on the field that you didn't anticipate. Maybe you made the wrong call. Maybe you made the right call, but somebody slipped. So now I got to go make a play. And so far, small sample size, Brock is showing that he can step out and make a play. Bryant asked GFF grades for Sunday's game. I did not GFF grade Sunday's game. Do you want GFF grades for games? I did think this. What game was it where the quarterback was better? Oh, it was Mahomes. Thursday night. I thought Mahomes was an example of why the GFF grades exist. The GFF grades exist because the PFF grades exist. But Mahomes was an example of why you grade. Because guys drop balls. And the numbers don't tell you how good he was. Or at least accurately tell you what he did that day. So my plan is not to GFF grade any further. I like to watch the game and focus on other things since we know who the starting quarterback is. But yeah, the GFF grades are for what no one else really gets to see. And when I say no one else, just like all of us get to watch the NFL games. And then I can say, I thought he was good. And you could say, I thought he was bad. And we can argue with it over it. And we all have the same information. The GFF grades were because you guys didn't have that information that I had, or that the other media members who cover practice had. Sometimes you did. There were some practices that were open. But the reason I did it is because I would leave practice, come sit here, talk about practice. And I had no real way to try to convince you that what I was telling you was accurate. And you still ultimately just had to trust my grades. So maybe you didn't, and whatever. You know, I can't help you. I could only tell you what I can tell you. And that was my way to try to communicate that. But the difference is in the games, we all get to see it. And so I don't need to try and communicate to you what happened. We can just all agree that we saw it and talk about why it mattered or what mattered. What's Parsons babbling about? Says Red Eye, who probably doesn't realize that Parsons was complimenting Brock today. Maybe you do. I would cringe every time Jimmy G held onto the ball and threw it. I don't have the same fear with Brock. I watched the Raider game just for that rush. Boom, boom. Ball goes, oh no. And it's a great rush. NorCal Dan, I always root for NorCal quarterbacks. Brady, Rodgers, Allen, Central Cal, Goff. My brother played against Goff in baseball. Brady's grandma lived at my uncle's retirement home. There's a lot of crossover there, NorCal Dan. Carr, Central California, eventually. Bakersfield. Yeah. I went out to Cal today. I think their turf there, I'm doing their game on Saturday, so I went out to their practice, which was 8:30 a.m., and just like when I did Niners practice, this time I made a mini board. And I think their turf is better than the MetLife turf. Brock will never get respect because of where he was drafted. I don't think that's true. I mean, Brady was drafted late. Dak was drafted late. There are far worse things than being on a winning team. And because you're on a good team, people say, well, was it all him? Better than being the superstar who gets all the credit on a losing team. And the beauty of playing quarterback is the only respect you need when the contract comes time to get paid is generational wealth. So that's the market, right? So I don't think any of that matters. And I think if he's on the team long enough, it'll be fine. You know, we debate, well, what about Steph's championship with Durant? Or what about Durant? Does he get credit for the championships with Steph? But that's really splitting hairs. I mean, both of them are viewed as two of the greatest players of all time. So it's kind of bullshit when people say, Steph doesn't get his credit for the Durant championship. And Durant, he doesn't get his credit for the Steph championship. I mean, it's kind of true, I guess. They don't get full credit, but they got the championship. So who cares? And at the end of the day, nobody's like, I thought Durant was the second best player, but then he needed Steph to win a championship. So I only have him ranked 15th. People pretend like it changes the way they look at those guys, but it doesn't actually change the way anybody, for the most part, looks at those two. And I think it's the same for a quarterback on a good team, on a great team. You win championships, you will get your credit. And here's why. The biggest, most watched games are the playoff games. And to win a championship, you, the quarterback, even on a team that gets carried by its defense, even on a team with 5 Pro Bowl skill guys, even on a team with a Hall of Fame All-Pro left tackle, even on a team with one of the best coaches in the NFL, you, the quarterback, to win a Super Bowl, have to make multiple plays, multiple throws in huge games that everybody sees. So you get your due if you play in enough of those games, no matter what anybody says about everybody else and sharing the credit. At the end of the day, the quarterback usually gets plenty of credit. It's the nature of the position. No quarterback who plays 10 years for a franchise and wins a Super Bowl or multiple Super Bowls doesn't get enough credit. They all get enough and more. Enough and more. And it'll come. If that's what they are, then it'll come. I think he's got like 70,000 on his YouTube channel. So, yeah. The team being stacked argument doesn't work with Purdy, to be honest. We saw QB drafted 259 spots ahead of him flounder with basically the same arm. I mean, bias. Here's my bias. You wear a glove in regular weather, you really got to prove it. Kenny Pickett had some bad throws. Roy's online. He's more top 12 than 15. Not close. Okay. I think it's close, but whatever. That's fine. That is, he's borderline tier 2 quarterback. And if he plays well this year, if they win the, if they're in the NFC Championship game, he will be Mike Sando at worst tier 3, which is usually around halfway through the list, right? 12, 15. So he's in good shape. Funny enough, nobody says that about Hurts, and he makes $50 million a year. Again, we watch Jalen play in big games, and Jalen is making plays. So, yeah, he gets his credit. I mean, we watch these games. Everybody watches these games. If you're a quarterback who makes plays, you can't escape credit. People are dying to give you credit, and people will be dying to give Brock Purdy credit. They already are, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. The only thing that matters is he good enough? And that's what we're trying to figure out now. And that's what makes this point in any quarterback's career so interesting, because we're trying to figure out, did you find a needle in a haystack? Because franchise quarterbacks are needles in haystacks. They are diamonds in rough. They are rare. They are often imitated, but rarely duplicated. And right now, we're at this moment in time where we can't see the future, and we think maybe he's that. And if he is, you just put a quarter in the slot machine, you just sat down, and you pulled that sucker jackpot. And there's nothing better in sports other than winning than finding your quarterback. Now, wasting him like the Chargers, that's one of the bad things in sports. But loved Micah's comments about Drake. I got to go back. I didn't see Micah's comment. I didn't see that aggregation. I didn't watch the full disclosure. I didn't watch the full episode of The Edge. A lot of content out there. We thank you for choosing this content today. Like the channel or like the video. You know what it says back there. Like the video. We appreciate that. Subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that. Help it grow. Programming note, or as Marv Albert would say, programming note, Wednesday, noon Pacific, will be the next episode of the Haberman and Middlekoff podcast. John and I, Wednesday, noon here on YouTube. And then, of course, if you missed our podcast from this past weekend, or Sunday night, you can either watch it or if you want it on the go, down in the description below, you can link directly to the podcast episode. It's all right there. Niners Rams, can't wait. I just heard as I was in the car running to get, I'm off coffee today. So I got an yerba mate, and I was in the car listening to Papa and Lund on radio, and I heard Dante Whitner, and Whitner said that Brandon Ayuk knows that he owns Ahkello Witherspoon's soul. So not taking the DB side on that one. He was very bullish that the Niners could light up the Rams this week. Yes, always PST. After Rodgers went down, the biggest thing is he has to stay healthy. God, please, Brock, stay upright. You know, I almost tweeted something last night. I saw Mike Garafolo post a photo of the rainy field, and he said, the rain has broken and we're going to play whatever. And my thought was, I shouldn't start a sentence with, I almost tweeted. Who cares? You shouldn't start a sentence with, I tweeted, or as I tweeted. And you definitely shouldn't start a sentence with, I almost tweeted, because who cares? But I did have the thought that you could say, God, 2 games back to back. Not that it matters, MetLife, but God, it's just, I've told you guys this before. I don't think I've named him. Maybe I have. A buddy who played in the league, works for Field Turf. And he has told me repeatedly that the field at MetLife, most high school fields are a higher quality level field. They don't have the best field turf. They don't have the top line product on that field. That if you go to your local high school field, if it's new, it probably has a better turf than what is at MetLife. Crazy. Same product as always, man. Evan, I get this question a lot. It is Axe pomade, which, is kind of consumer level product. I prefer pro level products, but consumer level means it's accessible. $8 or whatever at Target, wherever you get it, anywhere. That's the base layer. That goes in first. That's a lot of that. Then Kevin Murphy Rough Rider. That's the expensive stuff. Just a little dabble. That gives you the hold, right? I want hold, but I don't want it to be like hard gel. You want to be able to move it, right? So that goes in next. So that's the cocktail. Cal, ASU, or Oregon State games? I don't believe so. Bryant asks, thoughts on Mina Kimes getting the new $1.7 million deal with Espen? Cool. Sweet. I'm not here to pocket watch. Those trash fields need to go away. Yeah. Cody asks, I wonder if Rodgers still gets hurt. The turf there doesn't suck. Who knows? I mean, maybe he does. Like, it's easy to blame the turf for every injury. I did live. I thought immediately Achilles, because the way his foot stuck and then the way he just sat there. It wasn't the pain of like a broken ankle. Anybody who has popped an Achilles tells you, like, it's not that it's the searing pain. It's just, you're like, what just happened? He knew pretty quickly. It looked like he was pretty resigned immediately. And then when you saw the replay, you saw the way his foot flexed. I just thought I was hopeful that it wasn't that, because the sports fan in me woke up on Tuesday, like, kind of bummed about it, like you know what it was? It's the equivalent of what happened in the NFC Championship game, except for a full season. It's the same way you felt watching the game when you realized the Niners don't have a quarterback, and this game we were so hyped for is just nothing. Luckily there's, all these other games and players and all that, but it was the NFC Championship game, kind of that feeling in a bubble. That's what it feels like, big picture. If you're a Jets fan, it's just, this is brutal. But for the rest of us who were just excited to see what it looked like, great. Mina's the best Seattle fan I've ever heard, consistently giving Shanahan his due. I think Seattle's a lot like, I've talked to buddies about this. they have the University of Washington, which at this point is a bigger football program, obviously. Well, I mean, they've won a national championship, which Stanford and Cal didn't do in football anyway. Southern California obviously has SC and UCLA. Middle California, Bay Area, has Stanford and Cal, and then the North Pacific has UW and Oregon, and then Washington State and Oregon State. I've always thought, and I talked to a buddy about this who works in media up there for one of the teams, and I was like, it's a pro town, right? He's like, yeah, it's a pro town. And I think even there, it's like the Seattle stuff. It's a little newer, which I don't blame them. Seattle football was so bad for so long. But I think Washington, from a fundraising standpoint, as an institution, as an athletics department, they're going to have a challenge when they go to the Big Ten. They're going to be getting less money, and they're going to have to make up that gap with donors. Oregon can do that because Oregon has Nike and Phil Knight. But Washington's going to have to make up that gap. And I think the story to watch there right now, Kalen DeBoer is really good. Their football coach. They go play Michigan State this week on Peacock. And he is 93-11 as a football coach. They're going to the Big Ten, but a Big Ten school might try and steal him. Maybe Michigan State will try and steal him. And they're going to have to step up and pay. Oregon just stepped up before the season, gave Dan Lanning a raise. Washington's going to have to do that again after this year. And they're going to have to keep doing it because that's the way it works. And it'll be interesting to see. They lost their athletics director to USC. They got to make sure they hang on to their football coach. So somebody in here said, also Cougs running the Pac-12. Washington State will play Oregon State in 2 weeks. That game is on Fox. It's a big game for the two of them. Yeah. Cougs looked good this week. Gritty. Cougs were gritty. Oregon was gritty. Colorado was gritty. Who else was gritty? Stanford. SC was not gritty. They did not have to be gritty. Arizona was gritty but lost. ASU was gritty but lost. Oregon State, not gritty. Kicked the just absolutely annihilated UC Davis. Whatever. Supposed to happen. Washington, not gritty. Pounded Tulsa. UCLA, gritty light. And Utah, gritty. Really gritty. I think what's impressive about the Pac-12 right now is that there are so many teams that have won 2 games that have not played perfect football. I think that's what's really impressive about Colorado. Colorado has not played perfect football, and yet they're 2-0. They did not play perfect football this last weekend against Nebraska. 2-0. Cal's offense was brutal this week. Missed 3 field goals and a penalty erase a 4th field goal. Yeah, and they had a bad officiating call that erased a fumble 6. They had 8 trips into Auburn's territory and came away with 10 points. Not good. I miss the good old days when Stanford was good. If you were the Jets, would you trade a first to Minnesota for Kirk Cousins? No. And if I was Minnesota, I wouldn't need a first to trade you Kirk Cousins. I'll be interested. I'm going to give it another day to sit. I'll talk to John about it tomorrow on the show. My first reaction was we've seen the last of Aaron Rodgers. But if there's one thing we know about Rodgers, and I can identify with this, spite is a motivator. And I think he's going to have a spite comeback. A spite comeback. Ott coming back this week. Don't know. He didn't practice today. So he got concussed last week and kind of froze up. It was kind of froze up. So they play Idaho this week, which here's a little stat for you when you're hanging out with your college football friends this weekend. I don't know how many of you guys are college football fans. I love talking college football. 3 teams in all of football, the FBS level and the FCS level, 3 teams returned 2 1,000-yard receivers, 2 1,000-yard receivers this year. 3 teams, 2 1,000-yard receivers. Washington, Ohio State, and Idaho. There's the 3. Is Micah's praise of Brock mind games ahead of the Sunday night matchup? Well, I guess he did see Patrick Peterson guarantee an interception and then not get an interception, but Patrick Peterson made plays in that game. Patrick Peterson was not the problem. They don't play till October 8th. So in their next 3 games, we'll see if he's right. Top 15 level quarterback at the Rams this week. The Giants at home on Thursday Night Football. The Giants are at the Cardinals this week. So put it this way. If the Giants are somehow 0-2, it's going to be a very embarrassing 0-2. I would think they beat the Cardinals this week. Then the Niners play the Cardinals. Beauty for the Niners. I mean, they watch plenty. They grind the tape, but the Cardinals are coming off a game with Dallas. And then they get the Cowboys coming off a game with New England on Sunday night. So the Niners are going to have 2 primetime games in the next 4 weeks. And they're going to have 3 primetime games in the next 6 weeks because the Browns game in mid-October is on the Vikings game is on ESPN Monday Night Football. I'm just looking right now. Don't play another 10 a.m. game till the Browns game mid-October. So no, I don't think it's mind games. If you watch the Micah clip, wherever you watch it, or you can go back to the beginning of this video and watch it if you just jumped in. He's just talking. Like, he's not trying to do takes. He's just talking. I thought it was cool. Bones McCoy. Watch out for Utah. No Cam, no Brett. 2 Power 5 wins. Be on the lookout. We're close on both those names, Bones. You must be writing from your phone. Cam and Brant. But I know you know that. I'm just, for everybody else, a couple typos. I know you know. We're not spell checking here. It's the internet in 2023. Yeah, that's really impressive. I mean, they at 2 Power 5 wins. Colorado's the only team in the nation with 2 Power 5 wins, the only other one. So it's really impressive. And I think Cam Rising, I haven't looked today. If he doesn't come back this week, he might come back against Weber State this week, but then he comes back the following week against UCLA. I got to double check Utah's schedule here. UCLA at home. And, by that point, UCLA will be probably just starting and only playing Dante Moore, their 5-star freshman. And that's Utah's defense, a really tough thing for a true freshman to play. So I'd look for Utah to win that game. And I think as long as Cam Rising is back soon, Utah's the team to beat in the Pac-12. I have not watched the Arnold doc. Good. Sad to see the Pac-12 being so stacked. 8 in the top 25. Only the SEC's done that before. 324 days since the Niners lost a regular season game. Woo. My school sucks now, Clemson. Yeah. College football, and I've heard people say this week, and they're right, is wide open. I mean, and you knew it. It was clear coming in because you knew Alabama was replacing a first-round quarterback. Ohio State was replacing a first-round quarterback. Michigan's always going to be a little bit flawed in the big moments. Clemson's down. Georgia replacing a quarterback. It's just, if you told me a 2-loss team makes the playoff this year, I might believe that. I think it's going to be a unique playoff. Now, maybe in the end, we'll look up and it'll be the same guys that are always there, but I think it's going to be a little unique this year. Maybe it's Florida State. Somebody said fire Dabo. Trust me, as a Florida State fan, we didn't give up on Mike Norvell. Don't give up on Dabo. Dabo's, I think it's easy to, now they played somebody not great this weekend, and I don't know what the final score was, but at one point I looked up and it was not impressive. 66-17, the final against Charleston Southern. That game was like 24-17 in the second quarter. But hold on. Oh, now you guys are coming with college. I didn't know where this college. We're gonna do some college football talk today. We're doing college football talk today. We do some college football talk today. Where did this go? Somebody just asked a good question. Micah did seem to be talking off the cuff. Yeah. Achilles at 40 is wild. Where did you? Any picks for the weekend? Washington at Michigan State. We could start with that one. I always get it. Mark D'Antonio is back wearing a headset and allowed to coach for Michigan State this week. Coach got suspended. That's weird. I think Oregon State's going to take care of business against San Diego State. San Diego State will not be able to score with them. Washington's a 16.5-point favorite. Good God. Not a great college football slate this weekend. To be honest with you guys, it's not. Last week was awesome. This week is less awesome. But if there's a game that you had in mind, Kurt, Colorado has a huge NIL recruiting class. Why is it so surprising? He's playing with a lot of great recruits, isn't he? Well, he turned over his roster in a way that nobody has ever done just by volume. So then he did it after the spring again. So they spent all this time in the spring working, and then they changed a bunch of guys. Like the guy who scored 2 touchdowns for them in the spring game plays for Arizona now, Montana Lemonius Craig. That's a big turnover. So to get it all on the same page and for it to look as good as it looks, as just from an organizational standpoint, is really impressive. Him, Coach Prime, his whole coaching staff, his OC, his DC, like that's pretty damn impressive. And it is a surprise. Now SC had a big class last year in the portal, and those guys hit the ground running. But, you know, people have said, well, Coach Prime, no one's doing it like this. He's changing the game. We'll see. I don't think you can. Maybe sometimes you can duplicate it, but you have to have the quarterback. Remember, it's the same. It's what SC had last year with Caleb. They had the quarterback. So it worked. It doesn't work without the quarterback. And it's not just the quarterback. They got really good running backs. They got the one running back who was a 4-star that they flipped from Notre Dame when Coach Prime got the Colorado job. It's not just portal guys. Cormani McClain, who's the true freshman corner that they love, still has not played for them. So I think it's going to be hard to duplicate it. Are the Trojans going to go 12-0? Tough stretch. I don't think they will. Irish Utes, Cal, Washington Ducks. But I do think they'll be in the championship game. I like them in Utah at this point. A lot of people are on Washington. Understandable. Washington just lights people up, and they blew Boise's doors off, and that's tough to do. But I don't know if they have a run game yet. They've still been trying to find a run game, and I don't know if they're going to be physical enough for the good teams that'll be able to put up 40 points with them. But they'll be right there. Colorado plays Oregon in 2 weeks and then USC. Plan any meetups in the creek? Have a Tito's? LOL? Nothing planned at the moment. Steve Stricker, shave it or save it. Oh. Now, I didn't want to do Trey because he's young, but I could do a Steve Stricker. I'll try to remember that for John tomorrow. Anthony, I remember, is this only part 2? It took a lot of games for Brady to get the respect. I know ESPN and Fox analysts discussed Brock and the Niners in detail on their show, and now they have respect. Yeah, I'm with you, Anthony. I think what you're saying, I think we're on the same page. Brock's getting his respect. Dustin, how do we feel about Sam Jackson at Cal? He seemed any good? Got to see him more. I mean, he got hurt in their opener, only threw 4 passes. Last week was not efficient against Auburn. I watched him practice today. I mean, he can throw it. Throws a gorgeous spiral. He can move, but can they consistently hit passes? I mean, they made a lot of mistakes, missed field goals, but they also didn't move the ball. I don't know. I don't know. They've played 2 quarterbacks in each of their first 2 games now. I don't think it's a great recipe for them or for anybody, but it's not a great recipe for them. And they play good defense. So Niners were disrespected for the Steelers game. I agree. Symmetry with Florida State and Clemson. Florida State and Clemson with North Carolina needs to go Big Ten. Florida State Cemetery. North Carolina's a great. If you haven't been to that campus, and you're ever out in that part of the country, and you can hit Duke and North Carolina the same day, you should do it. Unless Kirby leaves Georgia, you're not getting a better replacement. Oh, with Dabo? I don't know. Is Dabo capable of just turning over coordinators the way that Saban has? I don't know. Logan, Drake Jackson looked great on third down. High motor, freak athleticism. Drake Jackson looked great as a third down pass rusher to pair with this D-line. High motor, freak athleticism for mop-up duty. 3 sacks. I mean, I don't know if he's going to have another 3-sack game, but you watch that. If that's their D-line, then they're just going to have a top 3 defense in the NFL again, which people thought they might have had anyway. But if that's their D-line, you guys know I said, I went back and forth on this. Like, do they have enough? From a depth standpoint, if they get hurt, no. But if they stay healthy, I thought Cleveland Ferrell and Drake Jackson would be enough with what you got. Armstead, who just keeps getting better. Hargrave and Bosa, and they looked really good. UCLA playing 3 every week. No, they played 2 in week 1 quarterbacks, and then they played 1 quarterback this week. They played a second quarterback, Colin Schlee, at the end, but they blew out San Diego State. Dante Moore, they say they're going to play 3, but then they haven't. Chip says we're playing 3, but then he hasn't actually done it. So I don't think he's going to do it. I think it's going to be Dante Moore. That's the guy. So, that's funny. Yeah, Sam Jackson the 5th. That's Cal's quarterback for the uninitiated. All right, time to roll. Time to go. Thanks for hanging today. Back with a noon podcast on Wednesday, noon Pacific. See you back here. Hit that. If you're hanging here, see a bunch of you here, hit that like button just while you're here. Way out the door. We appreciate that. Thank you. Maybe we'll do some more college football talk since there's those people out there exist. And, we're watching it every day. We're locked in. So, thanks for hanging. Hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel. That's big. That keeps the sucker growing. Keep that velocity. Keep that momentum. Let's keep the momentum. Keep the momentum. Keep the momentum. Keep the momentum. And have a great rest of the day. Great rest of the day, everybody. Later.